Now, there was a man who was standing on a bus stop, and he noticed two men, was working on the opposite side of the street. Now, he was watching that one of them was digging a hole about 2 or 3 feet deep. And then he moved on and dug another hole. Now, the second man was following him and was filling up the hole. And the man on the bus stop was watching this, and it happened several times, and so he got curious, and he headed towards them. He asked, "Now, guys," he said, "Hey guys, I want to know, what are you doing? I noticed that one of you is digging a hole, and the other is following and just filling it up. What's the point? You seem like you're just wasting your time." And one of them replied, "Well, we work for the government in the Department of Road Improvement. You see, we're supposed to be a team of 3 men. Myself, Joe over there, and Peter. Now, my job is to dig the hole, and then Peter is supposed to put the plant or the tree into the hole, and Joe over there is going to fill up the hole. Now, today it's just me and Joe, and Peter is absent." Now, that is a typical stereotype story of government inefficiency. Typically, we assume that any work of government is ineffective, easy, or hindered by a lot of layers like we call red tape, like a redundant work. It's like a burdensome and also hindered by burdensome laws that are difficult to deal with and live with. We sort of like have a love-hate relationship with government. We may say that it's hard to live with them, but we can't live without them. And so we're stuck with them. Now, this morning I want to talk to you about our relationship with government. Particularly, our response, a serious and significant response to the government. The title of our message today is, "It's Time for Christians to Defy the Government." It's time for Christians to defy the government. Don't worry, I'm not calling for a revolt or telling you that we should, just open up. That's not really the core message today. It's time for Christians to defy the government. Now, that is a present reality and a future reality. It is a present reality because while in Australia there are only a few churches, but in many parts of the world, notably in the United States and Canada, there are many churches that have defied their government's order to shut down their places of worship because of the pandemic. They say that the government has prohibited worship that is required of God, and therefore the time has come to defy the government. Now, in Australia, we are not just prohibited to gather in our place of worship. Most of our basic rights and freedoms has been taken away from us for over 2 years under the excuse of keeping people from the hospital and the grave. Since the pandemic, our view and response to the government has been on the front and center. There are 2 questions we need to ask, and it needs an answer. 1, are we always obligated to obey the government under all circumstances? Are we always obligated to obey the government under all circumstances? And the second question is there a time that to defy the government is obeying God? Is there a time that to defy the government is obeying God? Now, these questions are no longer abstract ideas. They are realities. For a long time, Christians who lived in countries that have freedom of religion have some kind of a live and let live philosophy. Like, well, if we're not bothered much by the government, then we're really not bothered much. We can live with the government if the government does not bother us so much. Live and let live. But now, in these unprecedented times, Christians are now feeling the pressure and the power of the government and its prerogatives. And we wonder, how should we respond? To the first question, are we always obligated to obey the government under all circumstances? The default answer is yes. The preset position of Christians is that we live in obedience to our government. Because government's authority is divine authority. Government's authority is divine authority. The Apostle Paul tells us this from the very beginning of Romans chapter 13, verse 1. Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. There is no authority except that for that which God has established. The authorities that exist has been established by God. God is sovereign, and therefore there is no authority in heaven or on earth that exists apart from His sovereignty and plan. All authority comes from God. God is behind all authority. If there is a government that exists, it's because God has put it there. In Daniel chapter 2:21, the prophet Daniel said that God changes times and seasons, and He removes kings and sets up kings. And then in Daniel chapter 4, verse 17, he said, the Most High is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth, and gives them to anyone He chooses, even to the lowliest of people. If you remember during the trial of Jesus Christ before Pilate, Pilate told Jesus this, why don't you talk to me? Don't you realize that I have the power to release you or crucify you? But Jesus said to him, you have no power over me at all, unless it was given to you from above. It doesn't matter how the person got into a position of authority, whether he was appointed to rule, or he has defeated his rivals, or he was voted by the people to that authority or position of authority. These are means, but those are not the source of his authority. God has handed or given that person the power or authority to rule. God is behind all authority, whether it's the prime minister, the premier, the president, senator, the congressman, the mayor, the governor, the local or state leaders. Each and every one of them has been given by God the authority to rule. And so the question, are we always obligated to obey the government under all circumstances? The common and usual answer is yes, because the authority of government is divine authority. And Paul says that there is no authority that exists except that which comes from God. And therefore, if we disobey that authority, we are disobeying God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted. And those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. There was this guy who was called by his government to join the military, but he didn't want to. So what he did, in order that he may be unfit for military duty, was to remove all his teeth. So when he got into the physical exam, he failed. He wasn't fit. But not because he didn't have teeth, but because he had flat feet. And so losing his teeth was the punishment. Just a joke. So the Apostle Paul tells us to submit to governing authorities because their authorities come from God. However, if you read the life of Paul, Paul violated the government of his day more than anyone in the New Testament. I say again, he just told us to submit to authorities, and yet if you look at his life, he is the man who most violated the government of his day more than anyone in the New Testament. The same apostle who wrote Romans chapter 13 is the same apostle who was publicly charged for treason and sedition. Paul, who says in this passage, submit to authorities because this authority comes from God, is he himself violated those very words because he was charged as a troublemaker and a threat to the government of Rome. In fact, he was in prison so many times, and he said he was put in prison like a criminal. So, is the Apostle Paul a hypocrite here? Do what I say, but don't follow what I do. Is that what he is saying here? Now, actually, what Paul means is that submission to government is not total and absolute. There are limitations. So, to the second question, is there a time that to defy the government is obeying God? Is there a time that defying the government is obeying God? And the answer is a resounding yes. There are times that disobeying the government is obeying God. In July 1933, a young German pastor named Joachim Hossenfelder. Joachim Hossenfelder, he was a pastor, German pastor. He preached a sermon in Berlin, Germany, most important church. The church was decorated by flags and banners of the Nazi party. And the pews were filled with young Nazi soldiers. And he used Romans chapter 13 in his sermon to emphasize to his congregation the importance of obeying the authorities of the land, the government, total, complete obedience to authority. Earlier that year, there was another German preacher. He was a bishop. His name was Friedrich Dibelius, a German bishop, a German Protestant bishop. He also used Romans chapter 13 in order to justify the Nazis' grab of power. 3 days after he preached that sermon on Romans 13, the German assembly was dissolved and Hitler came to power. Within a couple of years, 6 million Jews were slaughtered, massacred by Hitler. And the world was devastated by World War II. One New Testament commentator says that Romans 13 has caused more unhappiness and misery than any other verses in the New Testament by the license they have been given to tyrants. This passage has been used to justify a host of horrendous abuses of individual human rights. We must be careful not to misapply Romans chapter 13. Submission to government is not unconditional and absolute. There are limitations. According to the Apostle Paul, government must be resisted when it is not fulfilling its divine purpose. Government must be resisted if it is not fulfilling its divine purpose. What is the purpose of government? Why has God appointed them to govern? Verse 3 of chapter 13. For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from fear of the one in authority? Then do what is right, and you will be commended. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. They are God's servants, agents of wrath to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. Think about it this way. When you see a police officer, you're driving and you see a police officer by the side of the road, you notice that immediately your heart begins to beat a little bit faster. Oops, there's a police car. Am I speeding? When you look at the speedometer, am I speeding? If you are, immediately you pull back on the accelerator. We panic. We usually normally panic and become fearful, especially when you have done wrong. But if you have not done anything wrong, then you're not afraid of the authorities. As Solomon said, the wicked man flees though no one pursues. The wicked man flees though no one pursues. But the righteous are as bold as a lion. The tax office checks your tax returns to see if there's anyone has cheated in their taxes. Now, if you are honest in providing or submitting your tax returns, then the taxman is not going to go after you. So that when you receive a letter from the tax office, you're not scared, oh, what is this? Maybe they found out. Maybe if you've been honest, you're not hiding anything, you'll probably be overjoyed. Probably this is a tax refund. The point is that in order to be free from those who are in authority, you need to submit to authority. Verse 5, therefore it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of conscience, because it is right. Verse 6, this is also why you pay taxes, for the authorities are God's servants who give their full time to governing. Give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then honor. So, looking again at verses 3 and 4, it tells us that government is not a threat to those whose behavior is good. Government is a threat to those who are doing evil. If you're not doing evil, then authorities of the government should not scare you. But if you are, then you should be afraid. Rulers of governments, actually, according to verse 6, are servants of God to pursue those who are evil, and they carry a sword or the power to use force in order to pursue those who are doing evil, but to commend those who are doing good. This is God's design for government. Did you know why God instituted or established government? God established government, by the way, during the time of Noah, after Noah's flood. Before that, there was no, if anyone takes life, then he should pay his life. So that was the first time that God instituted government, and implying that capital punishment or taking another person's life is the highest authority that God can give to man, to take another man's life, implying that he also has authority over the lesser laws. So the the purpose for God installing or establishing government is to check on man's sinfulness. Human government was established by God to check human transgressions, human wickedness, human rebellion. Human government is there, in other words, for the good of society. Without government, there would be anarchy, there would be chaos, there would be killing, there would be destruction. It is survival of the fittest. So in the final analysis, any government is better than no government. Without any central authority, then there is just chaos. And so God instituted government in order that society may have order. So that is the design of God for government. God designed government so that to restrain evil and commend or praise those who do good. And when government functions this way, it is fulfilling the purpose for which God established it. Now, we turn to another passage in 1 Peter, a parallel passage. 1 Peter. Chapter 2. Verse 13, submit yourselves. I'm just thinking of submit yourselves. That is an easy concept. That is easy to understand. Submit yourselves. But that's not very easy to do, isn't it? It's like the very first word of a baby sounds always cute. Like one of the first words of the baby would be mommy. And the mother would be overjoyed. She's, on the moon. When the baby says, mommy, oh, my baby, she recognizes me, my baby. Say it again, love. Mommy. Don't say daddy, just mommy, mommy. It's very cute. But there's one word that babies say that are not cute. You know what that word is? No. Eat your food? No. Sleep? No. Take a bath? No. I'll spank you? No. And when that baby grows older, he or she would tell her older sister or brother, don't tell me what I need to do. You're not my teacher. And then as he grows even older, he or she tells other teenagers, don't tell me about what I will do with my life. You're not my parents. And then when he or she gets into a job and then a co-employer corrects him, he would say, don't tell me what I need to do. You're not my boss. But if the boss corrects him, I'm out. I don't like your face anyway. So at any age, by nature, we do not want to submit to authority. We are rebellious. We don't want to be told what to do. We don't want someone to make decisions for us. We don't want to be bossed. We want to be the boss. So, submission is an easy concept, but it's very hard to do. But that's exactly the cure for our anti-authority attitude. Submit. And so it says, submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human authority, whether to the emperor as the supreme authority, or to governors who are sent by him to punish those who do wrong and to commend those who do right. Submit, Peter said, to all authority, to all human authority. However, there's a glaring contradiction to what he just said compared to his life, just like Paul. Because Peter was actually executed because he didn't submit to the government of Rome. And if you remember, earlier, he and John, the Apostle John, was told by the authority of the Jewish council, who was under the authority of the Roman emperor, not to teach or preach about the gospel in the name of Jesus. But that prohibition contradicted to the command of God. And so they said, well, we must obey God rather than men. And with those words comes Christian civil disobedience formula. The Christian civil disobedience formula says that when government prohibits what God commands, or government commands what God prohibits, Christians must defy government. God's word supersedes man's word. And Peter says, you submit yourselves to authority for the Lord's sake, or do it for the Lord. This is not just the motive for submission. This is the limitation of our submission. God himself clearly restricts the role of the government. He has not given government unlimited authority. The government's authority is limited to these acts. One, for the punishment of evildoers and the praise of those who do right, or commend those who do right. So Romans 13 and 1 Peter chapter 2 says that God has given the government specific sphere to which it can function. It has given authority in order to punish those who do wrong and reward those who do good. That's the explicit, limited boundaries of government. You submit to government when government functions the way the Lord designed it. You submit to government as Christians if the government is doing what the Lord has intended it to do. Now, the problem we have today is that we have governments that have turned God's design upside down. It has turned God's design upside down. We have governments that rewards those who are doing evil and punish those who are doing good. They're protecting those who are doing evil and terrorizing those who are doing right. Let me give you a glaring example. Those of you who live in Victoria, or those of us who live in Victoria, Australia. The Victorian Labour government under Dan Andrews has provided money for a program called Safe Schools. It is a program supposedly against bullying homosexuals and lesbians in schools. But actually, its main agenda is to make same-sex relationships normal. So he's rewarding that. And at the same time, Dan Andrews' government have passed a law called conversion therapy law, wherein it makes it illegal for parents to pray for their children who is maybe struggling with their sexuality. If you're a parent and you pray for your children with or without their consent, that is illegal, and you could be thrown to jail or fined at least $10,000. Or if you're a pastor or anyone who does the same thing, that makes it illegal. So one example, he is rewarding what is evil, but he is punishing those who are doing good. Dan Andrews was Australia's first gender equality minister advocating the LGB or LGBTQI agenda. In his first year as premier, same-sex adoption was legalized. He led the Melbourne Pride March. It's the lesbian and homosexual parade march. And he hasn't missed one since. And he wants the Pride March to become a very, very huge event. Under his administration, there were laws that passed that says that a person can change their sex in their birth certificate with or without any medical operation, whatever. That a boy or a baby can actually change their sex on their birth certificate at will. That was under Dan Andrews' premiership. He was the premier of Victoria when euthanasia or assisted suicide became legalized, the first ever in Australia. He is pro-abortion. When he was health minister of Victoria, abortion of babies was legislated. By the way, the legalization of abortion has killed more unborn babies than the COVID pandemic will kill. 50 years. I've read the statistics that mid-January this year, there's already been about 2 million unborn babies murdered worldwide by governments, by government leaders who claim that they are for public safety and the health of people. William Pitt, the youngest Prime Minister of Great Britain and close friend of William Wilberforce, once wrote, necessity, that is, public health or common good. Necessity is the plea of every infringement of human freedom. It is the argument of tyrants. It's the creed of slaves. Get people afraid and they'll do whatever you want. A fearful society becomes very compliant. Panicking people will believe anything. During the gruesome and bloody days of the French Revolution, there were 40,000 people who lost their heads. 40,000 innocent people lost their heads. And you know who was operating the guillotine night and day, chopping people's head? The Department of Public Safety. It's like the Department of Health. The Andrews government is pro-homosexuality, pro-abortion, pro-euthanasia. And yet, he is responsible for removing special religious instructions from schools. Do you see my point? Do you see my point? His government has issued guidelines to Victorian schools which ban children from singing traditional Christmas carols that glorify God. So under his administration, he has issued to schools guidelines. Don't let children sing songs that glorify God. And principals were directed that the school children should not sing Christmas carols that actually pronounce the birth of Jesus Christ, like Silent Night, Hark the Herald Angel. This guy loves evil. And he encourages others to do evil. And he is against those who are doing good. In our world today, rulers are designing a culture that protects the immoral. Our government praises the evil and persecutes the good. So God's design for government has been entirely corrupted. Therefore, a government like the current Labour government in Victoria has lost its moral authority to rule, because it's not functioning the way God designed it. It's the same true. This is true for a family. God said that wives submit to your husband. But the husband can't expect for the wife to submit if he asks the wife to do something immoral, abort their baby, or cheat. The Bible says, children, obey your parents in all things. But the all things cannot and wish and should not include when a father or mother would ask the child to cheat, to lie, to commit sin. In the same way, any human authority, when they ask you to disobey God's law, has their authority been null and void. As Francis Schaeffer said in applying Romans 13, the state is to be an agent of justice, to restrain evil by punishing wrongdoers, and to protect the good in society. When the state does the reverse, it has no power, no proper authority. It is then a usurped authority, and as such, it becomes lawless and is tyranny. Government has already become purveyor and promoter of wickedness. Government is a murderer of millions of unborn children. Government has elevated LGBTQ agenda and the bizarre transgender deception. And if you don't accept them, then you become the enemy of the government. In short, they are now doing the opposite of what they were designed to do. They are protecting the evil and punishing the good. They are rewarding those who are doing wrong and terrorizing those who are doing right. Christians should not be subject to this kind of governing authorities. If government punishes the evil and rewards the good according to the moral laws of God, then Christians should submit. But if they don't, Christians should reject or defy these authorities. The ultimate criterion of right and wrong is not whether those in authority commands it, but whether God has commanded it. The fact that God has ordained all authority doesn't mean that all authority must be obeyed. It is right to resist those that God appointed in order to obey what God has commanded. There is a long list of civil disobedience in biblical history which God not only allows but also praises. For example, in the book of Exodus, if you remember, during the time of Moses' birth, while he was a baby, Pharaoh ordered that all babies should be slaughtered. But the midwives of Egypt hid the baby Moses. And for that, God was pleased with them. The midwives disobeyed the commands of the government, Pharaoh. And God was pleased with those midwives. In fact, the Bible says that God gave them a family of their own. That's one example. In the book of Daniel, there were two accounts. One, when King Nebuchadnezzar asked Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and everyone else in his kingdom to bow down before his idol. At the sound of music, all will bow down before him. They did not. The result, they were thrown into the fiery furnace. But God was pleased when they disobeyed the government. How? By delivering them from the fiery furnace. The other is when King Darius ordered that everyone should not pray except to him. No petition. When Daniel heard that, he went to his room, opened the windows that was facing Jerusalem, and he prayed 3 times a day as he always had. He disobeyed the command of the king, and God was pleased. Daniel was thrown into the den of lions, but God delivered Daniel because God was pleased that Daniel defied the government. So the point of all this is that, well, the Bible teaches that God, all governing authorities is from God. It doesn't mean that they must always be obeyed. When government fulfills its design, then Christians must obey. But when it promotes evil or rewards evil and punishes good, then Christians must resist that government, that governing authorities. Sometimes when government rewards evil and punishes the good, they have become a tool to Satan. Sometimes the government is supposed to do the work of God, but they do the work of the devil. As I said at the beginning, the time for Christians to defy the government is a present reality, but it is also a future reality. Revelation 13, verse 5. This is where all history is moving towards. This is the future reality, that Christians must defy this government. It is present today, and it will be in the future. The beast, referring to the Antichrist, was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies and to exercise its authority for 42 months. That's 3.5 years of the 7 years tribulation period. It opened its mouth to blaspheme God and to slander His name and His dwelling place and those who live in heaven. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. And it was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. This is the global government under the rule of the Antichrist. Understand that all of human history is progressing towards this one world government under the power of Satan. This is where history is going. And what will this one world government do against the people of God? It says, wage war against them. Today, if you are persecuted by your teacher, say your teacher, then you'll probably get a bad grade. Or if you are an employee, you probably lose your job or your friends. But real persecution, wherein you could lose your life or be thrown in jail, real persecution can only be done by the government. Only the government can do that. Only the government can kill you and throw you in jail or confiscate your properties. God has given the government authority, but when government misuse His authority instead of God's purposes and design, uses it for Satan, he will use that authority against the people of God. The government has and will always be the greatest persecutor of the church of God. The government has always been the greatest enemy of God, His truth, and His people. Satan knows that the only way he can kill the people of God is that he will control government. And Satan has gotten hold of governments. That's where he operates. He always works through government. Satan always works through evil rulers to persecute the people of God. In the book of Exodus, it was Pharaoh. And after the people of God left Egypt, it was the Canaanites, and then the Philistines, and then the Assyrians, and then the Babylonians, and then the Greeks, and then the Romans. And even during the time of Jesus Christ, the Jewish council, the Sanhedrin, it's the rulers of government that has done great damage to the people of God. Always. However, in the end, government will not win. Satan will not win. Jesus will. In Revelation 19, it says that Jesus comes back. And when he comes back, he will destroy every ruler, every authority, every government that has come against him and his people. He will return and he will destroy. It's a warning to those governments and rulers who have set themselves against God. God will destroy them. Jesus will rule his kingdom alone. That kingdom we are part of, those who love him. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Lord, we are living in unprecedented times, wherein we are not just under pressure by the pandemic and the earthquakes, we're also under pressure by the governments that you yourself have set up, because governments are controlled by Satan. And instead of doing what you have designed for them to do, they're doing the work of Satan, rewarding evil and punishing those who are doing the right things. Help us, Lord, to submit where we can in this government, or any government for that matter, when your word does not specifically prohibits or commands it. But Lord, help us to be courageous when there is the time to defy the government, which means obedience to you. That's our prayer, Lord. Help us to give what belongs to Caesar, but never, under any circumstance, give Caesar what belongs to you. That's our prayer. In Jesus' name, we pray all this. Amen. And amen. God bless you. And take care.